In the past, I always cut these pantograph pieces from paper templates, but my computer and my printer haven't been getting along that well lately, so I'm just drawing it on the plywood from scratch. I just cut all the pieces for the router mount using just the drawings, and I cut out the handle and these two links, and these all consist of rectangular parts, so I didn't film any of that. And these links are going to pivot and hinge on pins like this, and I'm going to use this thicker one for the main hinge. These ones are for the other links. The thinner these pins are, the easier it is to move the pantograph, although not too thin or they'll bend. So now I have to drill some very accurate holes in these pieces for those pins. I'm gluing the links together in stages, and that way I only have to worry about lining up one thing at a time. I bought this router off of Amazon, and this one is slightly smaller than the usual 89 millimeters. I knew this when I bought it. I just need to draw a different size circle on the template. I don't know, maybe a little too tight. I cut a tiny bit off of here and here where it rubbed the most. And now I'm actually pretty happy with that fit. I got this part of the router mount link glued up, and I was just checking the measurements on here, and I put it so that the 20 is in the middle, and there should be 12 in either direction for the holes. And this hole looks like it's to the right by about 0.5 millimeter. I think I should fix that. But before I do that, I think I'll glue the last pieces on those two links. I fixed this inaccurate part by making another one almost identical, and I glued together this part of the router mount link, just gluing on these square blocks. Putting the last layer on, the alignment for that will be really critical. And the next thing I need to do is to drill some holes through this part. This will be the operator handle, and there's no way I'll get that hole straight enough with a thin drill, so I'm going to drill from this side and from this side and hope that those holes will just kind of line each other up when they meet in the middle. Well, it lines up well enough that I can get the pin in there. On this Pantorouter, I have a little clamp right here that clamps the follower bearing this way. But I had another idea. So for this one, I've got a hole in here and a cut on the other side, and this part goes in there. And then the knob goes on here, and when I tighten that, that locks it in place. Except I screwed up a little bit because I meant for that knob to be on the top, except I cut the cavity on the wrong side. So I'll just end up putting the bolt in the other way around and put the knob on here. I wanted to get a very snug fit for the shafts here, but now the fit is too tight. So I made a reamer by grinding a slot into the end of one of these shafts with an angle grinder. And I can use that to expand the holes for a snug fit. The most important aspect of these two links is that the shafts are exactly parallel. Checking the distance here, and then on the back, it looks like I have a tiny bit of play. I'd say probably about 0.2 millimeters, which I think is acceptable. Now let's make sure there's no twist in this thing. Uh-oh. So I do have some twist in there. So the needle moves by 20 thou. That's about 0.5 millimeter. That is unfortunate, but with only a moderate amount of force, I can force that into compliance. I won't make this thing again. I might have to fill one of the holes and re-drill it, but I'll just see how it works when I put the Pantorouter together. This one's a little bit worse on the spacing front, but in terms of twist, it's only half as bad. I'll call that good. Checking over this part, I realized this hole is about 1 millimeter too far this way. This is a problem, and I'm going to try to fix that by reaming it and using this piece of wood as a guide. And now I got to slide it by 1 millimeter. Well, I think that's reamed far enough because the parts can now mate. I just need to glue a spacer in there later. I'm kind of afraid of doing the final glue up on this because if it's misaligned, I have to remake the part. So I set up this jig. This ensures the shafts are in a plane, and then these stops make sure that the shaft on the end at least is at a right angle, so that if I put it on here, while I do the final clamping, I can make sure everything is straight. These two links join the main support at the bottom, and they need to tilt against each other, except this hits here, which is why these ends need to be chamfered. Getting that second washer in place is really tricky, and I used an extra shaft to capture it in place while I pushed the main shaft through. I've been lining these up very carefully, and this is where the pantograph mount goes. Now I need to transfer the pilot hole locations, and I'll do that just by driving the points into the wood. I still have some work left to do on this pantograph, but I'll leave it like that for now. In the next video, I'll start building the template holder, which goes right here. That's this thing here on my other Pantorouter, except this time it's going to be a bit of a different design.